Though the episodes spanned a period of 5 years, there were really only ever 15 episodes of Rowan Atkinson's beloved Mr. Bean. Despite the fact that there were so few episodes, the series was met with widespread acclaim and gave us countless hilarious moments. Welcome to The Rewind. Today, we'll be counting down the top 10 funniest Mr. Bean moments. But before we begin, make sure to give this video a like and hit the subscribe button for good luck. Number 10. Sandwich making. Typically, a quiet park would be the most peaceful place to enjoy a quick lunch. But there's rarely any peace and quiet when Mr. Bean's around. Envious of a random stranger's appetizing lunch, Mr. Bean decides to make his own sandwich. Conveniently enough, he's got all the necessary ingredients tucked away in the many pockets of his jacket. Whether it's a loaf of bread, a stick of butter, some live anchovies, or even pepper kernels, Mr. Bean is apparently always prepared to make a quick snack. Number 9. At the cinema.
No! He's a Mars.
After watching this next sketch, it's safe to say that Mr. Bean's dating life is nothing short of entertaining. While going to the movies tends to be a classic romantic date, it proves to be quite the opposite for Mr. Bean. From refusing to share his popcorn with his date, to screaming at every jump scare and wanting to leave the date early, Mr. Bean somehow manages to ruin his date in every possible way. Number 8. At the swimming pool. After being chased out of the kiddie pool by a lifeguard, Mr. Bean decides to take his chances with the pool's tallest diving board. What could go wrong? To no one's surprise, when Mr. Bean gets to the top of the diving board, he's quickly paralyzed with fear and soon ends up in the fetal position. To make matters worse, as Mr. Bean is living out this traumatic incident, 2 boys are watching him, waiting for their turn to take the dive. Number 7. Getting ready for bed. Mr. Bean has a bedtime routine that he seems to follow pretty religiously. For starters, he brushes his teeth with an electric toothbrush and rinses his mouth with a tiny water gun. That same toothbrush then doubles as a Q-tip for him, and later triples as a brow brush. After some cozy nighttime reading with his stuffed teddy bear Teddy, he pulls a handgun out of his nightstand and fires a single bullet into the light bulb above his bed. Lights out. Number 6. Hotel TV remote.
Hello?
After checking into his hotel room, Mr. Bean becomes fascinated by a fine piece of technology that he finds in the room, a TV remote. The remote startles him at first when it switches on the TV, but soon enough, he starts to experiment with it in different ways. He continues to mess around with the remote as he steps outside into the corridor until he's finally caught. Number 5. Emergency room. When Mr. Bean has to pay a visit to the emergency room, he displays a side of himself we're not used to seeing. The calm, well-mannered comedian has little patience when he finds himself faced with a long check-in line. He manages to get rid of everyone in front of him in the most creative ways imaginable. But his impatience only intensifies in the waiting room when he realizes how many people are still in front of him. Number 4. Paint bomb. Mr. Bean decides to make some minor renovations to his apartment. But as we all know, even the smallest of tasks turns into a huge undertaking when Mr. Bean is involved. After Mr. Bean loses his tiny paintbrush in a bucket of paint, he decides to use Teddy as his paintbrush. This, of course, turns out to be disastrous and an extremely inefficient way of painting the walls. Mr. Bean then decides to wrap every single item in his apartment with newspaper before sticking fireworks into the paint bucket in order to create the ultimate paint bomb. Number 3. Bathroom mishap. In his 1997 self-titled film, Mr. Bean faces a problem we can all relate to. As he's washing his hands in a public bathroom, water splashes all over his pants. Now it looks like Mr. Bean has wet himself, so he tries his best at patting his pants dry with some tissues. After that doesn't work, he resorts to standing on the trash bin and switching on the hand dryer to dry his pants, which is right when someone else walks in and finds him in a pretty compromising position. Number 2. Giving a haircut. If you ever spot Mr. Bean working at a barber shop, turn right back around, unless you want to walk out of there with a bald spot in the middle of your head. A mother and her young son learn this lesson the hard way when she lets him cut her son's hair while she runs out to receive her purse. Mr. Bean attempts a literal bowl haircut on the boy and manages to ruin that. He then uses a hair clipper to butcher the boy's hair even more, leaving him with a bald patch across his head.
Yeah, great. Thanks, lads. Found it.
And number 1, the Christmas turkey. Coming in at number 1, we've got a true comedy classic. Mr. Bean is cooking a giant turkey for Christmas dinner. As he begins to stuff the turkey, he accidentally loses his watch inside of it. When all his attempts to retrieve the watch fail, he decides to stick his head inside the bird, but ends up getting his head stuck as well. Right on cue, Mr. Bean's girlfriend arrives with some mistletoe. Well, that's it. What did you think of our list? Before you leave, don't forget to give this video a like and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Check out these other videos from the Rewind, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video again.